Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm here with Chris Karamyar, and we're just going to be sharing some insights into our personal experiences lately in the hopes that it may be supportive of anybody who's tuning in and listening. So you shared something with me in your message last week, and I'm so deeply curious to hear more about it, about the human experience and the purpose of it and what your findings have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where to begin? Well, it's funny because I actually came across this information and this kind of awareness about 4 years ago. And that was really the beginning of my journey. And even though I had that awareness of kind of what the human experience was about and the universe and why everything was created, it was there in front of me. It didn't quite fully click, and that's because that was just the beginning of my journey. And I spent, even though I haven't been aware of it until like the last week, I spent like the last 4 years building a picture of what everything's about. And I can see that I've been guided to it. And I just feel now that I have like such an incredible view of just why everything is here. And of course, it's a growing perception and awareness. I'm not claiming to have all the answers and have everything dialed in. In a year's time, I might say, oh yeah, that wasn't right. But for me, at the moment, what I have been guided to understand is that, and this might be quite surprising for some people, and obviously you don't have to believe what I'm saying. It's, you have to go out and find your own information and awareness. But the origins of the universe, it wasn't initially created for humans. That was not the original plan. And just to kind of stop breaking it down, if you want me to.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously I fully believe that we have a creator, and there is a creator that's the source of this universe. But obviously, for there to be a creator, there has to be somewhere. If there is a creator, there is somewhere that the creator lives as well, which is, we're obviously completely cut off at the moment. But what I believe is that there are purposes beyond what we can currently conceive in that land where the creator lives. And basically, what I was initially guided to understand is that there's a mission where the creator lives. He has his own, it has his own mission, and that's bigger than just the creator as well. And for reasons I don't know exactly, I think it might be some sort of building block or something, but what I've been guided to understand is that there's an extremely rare and valuable energy that the creator is collecting, and it exists out in the wild where the creator exists, and it exists in like a raw wild form, and the creator has to go out and collect this energy and distill it down into something extremely pure. And I don't know what it's for, but I have a feeling it's something to do with building a pathway to somewhere new or something. I don't know what it's for, but it's extremely rare, what I've been guided to understand, and it's very valuable. And it's a very, very pure, extremely high vibrational energy. So this energy is collected out in the wild and distilled down. So one day, there's no time like in that way, but the creator had an idea essentially to create somewhere where this energy could be grown rather than collected out in the wild. And that's essentially when the universe was created. It was created, I've been guided to understand, initially at the beginning it was created as a place to create this distilled energy rather than having to go out and find it in the wild. And the process that it's created is through the carbon oxygen process that plants go through. And when all organic matter emits this energy, and when a plant dies, it gives off this energy, and it can be collected and then distilled down into this raw energy that the creator needs for whatever reason. So that's why I understand that the earth was created initially. The first organic life on earth was unicellular organisms in water, and that those, even those tiny little cells, gave off this energy. And then obviously the amount was tiny, so then the next thing that came was seeded plants, and when the plant goes into the ground, it lives, it dies, and it gives off this energy. And because it was seeded plants, and the seeds disseminate, and then it plants more plants, and then this energy just continues to become more and more abundant, but still it was just too small of an amount. So the next thing that came was animals, essentially, and creating an ecosystem where a balance of herbivores and carnivores, where, because if there was just herbivores and they just ate all the plants, the ecosystem would die, and then there would be nothing to produce this energy. So there was basically a balanced ecosystem created, where it would just keep ticking over forever and ever. The carnivores would eat the herbivores would eat the plants, and every time something died, this energy would be emitted from these organic beings and collected. So that was ticking over fine, and that could have stayed there, is what I understand. But then the creator created something new. So you have unicellular organisms, then there was plants, then there was animals, and then there was a new creation in which he inputted a piece of himself, which a piece of the creator in this fourth creation, which we all know what that is. And the reason that was done was because it would create an unstoppable, an unstoppable drive to find wholeness. Because if something has the spark of the creator in it, it's never going to stop trying to reach that place completely, find wholeness essentially again. And that, obviously, that creation was the human. So, and then again from there, the creator kind of didn't just left things to tick over again. And one thing that I've understood is that even all of this energy that was given off by plants and animals dying, it still wasn't in that purest form. It still had to be distilled down into a purer form. And basically what happened is the creator stumbled. I'm saying this in linear time. Obviously it wouldn't have happened exactly like, it's impossible for us to fully conceive like time outside of time and space. But one day the creator discovered that there was an extremely pure energy, a distilled energy directly being created, and couldn't understand what it was and had to find out. And it noticed that there was a human under a tree or whatever, just standing on its own, basically experiencing loneliness. And that was creating this distilled energy. And what basically was discovered from there was that emotional energy of any vibration creates this purely distilled energy. So what just became essentially a garden to create this energy and grow it in an organic form became an emotional experience, and that's when everything completely transformed, basically. So we are essentially, as humans, having emotional experiences. We're consistently emitting this energy, pure distilled energy, which the creator needs, whether it's fear, shame, guilt, sadness, joy, gratitude. We're always emitting this pure energy, creating it. So that energy is being collected up by the creator, essentially, and taken to the next land wherever he is. But it doesn't stop there, because you could, I mean, if you take that the wrong way, I mean, I think some people could get a bit like upset about that, like, oh, I'm just here to produce this energy and what's in it for me. But the incredible thing that has this whole earth has evolved into is a school, basically. And what I've been guided to understand is that as well as creating this energy, we are actually accumulating all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, everything that it takes to create that energy. And we're essentially in a school of learning. It's a compressed, highly intense experience, and we are gaining in an experience that can't be found anywhere else in the universe. And we have, because we are obviously spiritual beings, we have that that timelessness, that pure vibration in us. But the thing that we're learning on earth that can't be learned anywhere else is the left brain intellect, and you might maybe want to call it masculine, that being able to channel energy into creations. That's what we're here on earth to do, to use the power of thought and to be able to create, essentially. And that's the huge bonus of the human experience, is that we're not just here to create that energy, we're also here, we're given the opportunity to grow into something new. And what I understand, what I've been guided to understand, is that we will essentially one day all graduate the human experience, and it will learn to create our own environment where that energy can be created as well. And the ultimate goal, what I understand, is that eventually the human experience will click out, it will just finish, and when that happens, we will all just graduate not just the human experience but the entire universe, and we'll be able to go up and meet the creator and have the opportunity to create our own world or join the creator in some new adventure. So that is what began as just essentially a garden to grow this energy, has turned into that, and also a training ground for creators, and we will all one day graduate this entire universe. So that's, to sum it up in a very short amount of time, that's pretty much what I've been guided to understand. So.
Wow. It is profound. That is profound. And I really appreciate the way that understanding has filtered through you uniquely into your experience, and the way that you are experiencing and interpreting it. Because I have not ever heard it worded in quite that way. How would you guide people to create and produce that energy? Do you have any insights into that? Because it feels like, to me, what you're speaking to is the Philosopher's Stone, this energy. Well,
here's the thing, because as I understand it, all emotion creates this energy, but there's varying degrees of quality. So all emotion creates this distilled energy, even if it's fear, but the absolute purest, highest form of energy is from the, can you guess what emotion it's from?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So are you going to say something?
Well, I was going to ask if you mind if I add my experience of this, because I feel like we're connecting to the same energy in different ways, and I think it'll be valuable for people to hear it from different angles to potentially support them in integrating it. I love that you mentioned quality, and to me, quality is representative of authenticity. So even if we're in fear, or we're in grief, or we're in complete bliss and joy, it's just the authenticity of the moment that we're really experiencing that and allowing ourselves to experience it fully. And a profound experience in my life has been allowing myself to be witnessed by other humans in the midst, in the depths of that vulnerability and that authenticity. And that seems to deeply facilitate the generation of that energy. And it liberates it too, in a way. To me, it feels liberating. And it also provides a sense of meaning and connection that I personally have not been able to accomplish completely on my own. I've gone deeply, I moved deeply into my own emotional processes because I value it, because every time I do that, new wisdom is unlocked, like you were speaking to earlier. And I found that our ability to feel and be sentient creatures is what unlocks our genius, our creative genius. And I feel like it's such a valuable part of the evolutionary journey to experience that. But no matter how deeply I move into these parts of myself, there's certain, perhaps I'll call them blind spots, or just things that I'm not able to fully facilitate unless I have another being who is witnessing me fully in that and has the capacity to hold that space for me to be the full range of myself authentically. It just pulls it out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that's a feminine energy kind of thing? 'Cause it's interesting because I'm probably the opposite of that. I've always been try and keep very calm and grounded around others, even if I don't feel like it. And I've never been someone who's relied upon, it's that process that you just explained of having someone else there to provide the space for you to open up. I don't think I've never experienced life in that way. So it's quite interesting then.
Yeah.
To hear it that way.
Maybe I think it is feminine because it's sensual. It's so feeling in nature, but it's been my edge because I've always been the pillar and the support and the strong one. And so I have taken on this kind of responsibility to hold it together and to stay calm and to stay composed. And I think a lot of that comes from my lineage, from the feminine side. I was always trying to be refined and perfected. And under that was this undercurrent of unworthiness, which didn't allow me to show up in my full open, didn't allow me to show up openly because I was so afraid that it wasn't good enough, that I wasn't good enough for connection and reception, for somebody else to receive me fully. And so I didn't allow myself to go there with other people. And then from the masculine side, my experience has been the deep shame and guilt of the abuse that occurred from the masculine, and the masculine not being able to really fully feel that within themselves. And so my feminine wanting to nurture that, of course, and so I've had to learn how to detach from being the one who does that for other people and allowing them to have their own experience. So it's been an edge for me on both sides to open up those parts of myself in front of other humans. And that has looked like processing my own guilt and shame for the moments when I haven't shown up wholeheartedly, authentically, vulnerably to the people in my life, and for the ways that I haven't fully valued myself enough to live from that space without worrying so much about what the response would be or internalizing somebody else's reaction. and making it mean something about my value. And so there's been so much deep meeting the self, just meeting the self over and over again, and expanding into deeper layers of self-awareness by feeling myself fully. And so my edge, whether it's feminine or masculine or just human altogether, has been allowing myself to open in that way in front of other people and trust that I am held by life through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So would that, in terms of like just a day-to-day experience, if you're having a rough day and you're around others, you would be open to expressing that and not holding back, would you say?
yes, that's something that I'm continuously opening to, and it's been challenging. It has, because there's always been protection. There's been some whatever that protection mechanism has been there, and so I'm opening to that. And then a huge part of that for me, and even the relationships I do allow in my life at this point, ownership over my experience is what feels important in that, and keeping the energy really pure, is that this is what I'm experiencing right now. Are you available to hold space for that? What are you experiencing? And really just fully owning my actuality of what's happening for me, and then giving others an opportunity to fully open and express what their experience is, and really valuing both of those deeply. And so through the experience of me opening to all of this, what I have discovered on my own life path is that to me, value is the highest value of creation itself. And I think that that's what creates this energy. And so I have been practicing more and more intentionally, infusing value into myself and into every aspect of my life and my relationships, even if there's certain things I've had to disconnect from, certain, relationships and things as I move along my path. Still, even if it's from a distance, holding those people and times and places and spaces in value, and really seeing that what they're experiencing is valid and valuable, and keeping all of that energy as pure as possible. And so courage feels really important in my life right now. I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but I may cry while we're talking, because it's so fresh. This unfolding, just as this awareness is fresh for you. This discovery, this opening to allowing myself to be seen and trusting that is really fresh for me. And it's something I've been exploring more lately with people who words, there's no words that are going to be able to, yeah, here it is. There's no words that I have to express my gratitude for the space that they hold for me, and the ways that they continuously create a safe space, and they continuously ask what my needs are, and they accommodate those needs in the best way that they can, and then I'm able to give that to them too. So there's such a reciprocal giving and receiving in those containers, and it feels so pure. And I just am so thankful to be able to share that with other people, and to learn that it's safe to open in that way. And hopefully the more I allow myself to be vulnerable and expressing my truth, whatever that may be in the moment, invite other people to know that it's safe to do that too. Because I think at the core for me, it's been about safety. Is it safe to feel? Is it safe to be seen? Is it safe to connect fully with other humans has been my thing, because I had a lot of trauma in my life, and I'm really good at connecting to myself, and I'm really good at connecting to life, the spirit realms, the intangible, the metaphysical, the physical. But with people, it's been challenging, because I realize how many of us still need to give ourselves that kind of compassion, really, that gentleness that we potentially didn't receive from other people in our lives who I truly believe did the best they could from their point of awareness. But it's really not possible to give that depth of love to somebody else unless we've given it to ourselves. And I think that's a learning for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, you just did everything that you talked about. Express yourself authentically.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really interesting that you say this. I don't know, maybe it's not just a feminine thing, but I've lived my life like the complete opposite of that.
Uh-huh.
Like I've always been, I don't know where it's come from, maybe my dad, but I don't know. I've always been, no matter what's going on around me, I have to keep calm. No matter how I feel inside, I have to keep balanced on the outside.
Uh-huh.
That's how I've lived my life. And maybe it'll change, especially after this new awareness that I've had about all emotions being valid and good in a way, in their own way. And you saying this, how you experience life as well. Maybe there will be a shift, but yeah, for me, it's been, I've been through like the most mind-numbing states of despair, like literally like so deep at times that I didn't even know how I was there the next day. And I would just keep a straight face in front of everyone, from my family. I never told anyone. And it's incredible in a way how I was able to do that, because it was literally like my brain just felt like it was going to explode. I was like, just felt completely, just completely like in despair at times, but managed to somehow keep a straight face around others. And I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm not trying to play like a tough guy. That's just always been my mentality. I've never been, very rarely opened up in like you just have in front of anyone, to be honest. So yeah. I don't know, maybe there's a new shift, but certainly I do think about things a lot more like pragmatically and practically. Like I have a really like awesome sort of like, if you want to call it right brain, spiritual, creative connection to the universe. But my gift is channeling stuff into like the left brain and like making it understandable, linear terms. So I always think I get a download and then I'll channel it into something practical, and that's how I always think. So you've expressed like how you just did beautifully about emotion, but in my like intellect side will be, or when I'm experiencing this emotion, I'm creating this energy, so it's beneficial for me and the universe. Like that's how kind of practical I can be about things. And I know it doesn't sound, it's very sort of masculine and intellectual, but it works for me. So if I can experience fear or a really negative emotion, now I can know that in some way it's benefiting the universe. And when you see it like that, it's like I can experience fear and kind of like be appreciative of it and just embrace it and not have it be this big disastrous terrifying thing. Oh god. Yeah. So yeah,
I feel I feel like this is beautiful, because what I've been playing with recently is, because I also channel very the best way I can describe it is it's through my crown. So when I receive visions, it feels intellectual because the energy is so sharp and objective, and it just is, and it just comes through so succinctly.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I find it challenging to connect the information unless my feeling body is connected to that intellectual capacity. And so what I have been dancing with recently is finding ways to merge, infuse those together, because when I do my activations, that's what makes them so powerful. And it's what creates the effect in the physical, is that I'm using my clear intention fused with the power of my soul and my heart and my feeling nature to amplify it and really bring it into the physical. And I think that that has been one of the most powerful ways that I've been able to embody my creative capacity and create actual physical effects in the outside world. So I've been dancing with, how do I fuse these two capacities into one and exist from that space more regularly, instead of having them be two separate entities. Because they have been, and we talked about this on our last call a bit, how sometimes I receive the downloads very intellectually, and then I kind of leave them there for a bit, and I wait until I can infuse them with heart, until I'm back in that space, so that I can translate it in a way that becomes useful for people. Because that's my main intention, is I don't want to just be a data generator. I want to be a meaning generator. I want that data that I receive to mean something and to become useful for somebody in their experience in whatever way that applies to them. So I've been playing with that. And then so I feel like that's actually just a natural integrative process that's taking place in me right now, that I sense and feel is happening. And I'm trying to just allow it to integrate and unfold itself. I'm certainly right smack dab in the middle of a calibration. Like right in the middle of it. And so I'm just letting evolution do what evolution does. And another piece is so wholeness. So I find there's deep value in that intellectual masculine capacity to detach, to see things clearly for what they are, and to detach. And what I have discovered for me is that if I detach from a place that doesn't have care, the dynamics of the energetics between me and whatever it is that I'm detaching from are much less fertile for growth than when I detach with true care, with a knowingness, as a clear capacity to see what's happening and see it for what it is, but also the compassion to go with it and understand that in some scenarios there's potentially nothing I can do or say to bring about a different awareness. And so to allowing things to unfold how they need to unfold for everybody. So even within that context, seeing clearly whatever it is that's happening, but then having the kind of compassion or the care, I suppose, to go along with it. But not to the point of self-sacrifice, not to the point of, re-infusing myself or,
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's really interesting just for me as you talk about these things, because you talk about when you use examples, you talk a lot about how you relate to others, and it's interesting for me because I've lived a really introverted life for the last few years, and the experiences that I pretty much or the examples that I would share with people, or just my own things, it's like I've had like one relationship in the last 10 years. I think I've spent years just not really leaving the house unless it was just on my own. So
Uh-huh.
my experiences are very much based just on me, which is quite interesting. How and you use a lot of examples how you relate to others. So it's just quite interesting to hear it in that way from me.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I think that's interesting because for me to hear that reflection from you, because what I've because I'm very introverted too, and I don't have very many close, intimate relationships, but the ones that I do, I deeply value, and I've also had to disconnect from ones over the past year in particular that um, I just feel like it was a natural evolution. Like we experienced what we needed to experience in those containers, and then a new evolution was being called for, and so we just naturally moved in the directions. But what I've realized for me is that my greatest growth comes through the container of relationship at this point in my life, because I've done over 10 years of traveling and like a deeply solo, mystical journey. Um, and now like my edge really is relationship, and not just relationship, but opening in relationship, because I can surrender to life. I can surrender and open to myself and wildly, radically embrace all of my dimensions, whether it's feeling from my heart or whether it's something that's more taboo and completely not deemed societally appropriate. I have the capacity to be with those parts of myself. But what feels really uncomfortable and vulnerable is to authentically be those parts of myself in front of other people. So that's just kind of where I'm at in my journey. And over this past year in particular, I've been really opening to exploring that within containers of relationship. And it's been good because they've all given me, some in healthy ways and some in unhealthy ways, reflections of where I can value myself more, and where I do value myself deeply. And so the more I kind of fill in those gaps in myself, or I see, okay, this is where I'm not either letting myself be seen or valuing myself, I can use some work here. And the beauty in that to me is that enables me to show up more for others too, and have like a sincere engagement where it's not, two stories battling with each other, but truly like an experience that's being shared, and everything is allowed and accepted to be what it is in that container, and it's valued in a different way, and that feels really rich to me. It feels, I suppose, if I could express my definition of wealth, that's what it is to me. It's substance. It's the wealth of experience, of authenticity, of that kind of emotion that you're speaking to, that can be shared powerfully. It can be shared powerfully, and it can also be experienced powerfully internally. And I really honor that you are taking the space that you need to have a deeply internal and introverted experience, because I think that that's a place that a lot of people don't allow themselves to go, because it can feel scary to disconnect and come in so deeply, to learn and to grow in that way. And I really appreciate that you have done that, and that you're choosing to do that, because that feels appropriate for you on your path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, it's I've no doubt that that's the way I'm supposed to be living, even though to some people it might seem crazy. I feel like I'm fully in alignment with my life path, and I don't know when I've never had like a really long-term relationship, and I don't know when that will come, or maybe if it will come in the way I expect it. I just don't know. I'm completely open to the unknown at the moment. But the relationships that I have been extremely transformational, even though they may have looked disastrous from the out, not disastrous, but not good from the outside. It didn't matter to me, because if you come together with someone for 3 months, it's a hugely turbulent experience emotionally. You're going to come out the other side, if you allow the growth to occur and learn what you're supposed to learn from it, you're going to come out the other side a completely transformed person.
Yeah.
So you can't, by societal standards, you would call it invalidate and say that was an unsuccessful relationship. But if you have a transformational 3 months, if you see it as an experience, then that's exactly what it is. It's a learning experience. So if I can not barely see anyone for 4 years and then get into a crazy relationship for 3 months and then go off and spend another 4 years on my own, but that 3 months was transformational, then it's completely valid for me. And that's how my life's been in that aspect for the last 10 years. So
I appreciate that you're bringing that forward, because I feel the same way about relationship. Like to me, I associate it with evolution, I suppose. In so many ways, it's just all man, it just all feels so necessary and purposeful to me. I don't feel like anything that I've ever experienced is a mistake. Even the most gut-wrenching, challenging experiences, I feel like they were so purposeful, and they were driven together and apart by some universal force that I can't completely explain or rationalize in any way. And I think sometimes when we look back on certain relationships, and I think this can be prevalent, well, I mean, I suppose it can be prevalent in the feminine and masculine. We look at, well, where did I go wrong? How did I mess up? Or why didn't I see this? And I know I've done this before too. But then when I really step back and I look at it and I go, no, that was beautiful and perfect and very, very on purpose. And I don't think we can mess it up. I don't think that any of it is a mistake.
No, I mean, that's my two go-to quotes are, first one's all experience creates wisdom, which you've just won. If you live by that, there's nothing that can't benefit you in some way, however disastrous it may seem initially. And then the second one that I've just come up with just lately is that all emotional energy creates that new energy. So that we were talking about earlier. So it doesn't matter if I'm experiencing fear, anxiety, dread, whatever. If I can be a bit objective about it and say that there's some benefit to the universe of me embracing my emotions, then again, you just can't lose, really. So it's all about being able to step back and being objective, which I'm learning to do really well. Like I can mentally separate myself from everything around me. Like I can mentally separate myself. I don't live like this, but from my relationship, business, success, all this stuff, I can mentally set, so I can experience it as something outside of me, and then experience a wholeness within me, completely separate of that. And then I can bring it back in. But I know that without any of those things in place, I still feel completely whole. So that's a pretty big shift that's occurred for me the last few months. But yeah, all experience creates wisdom. So
I agree with that. And I mean, I think that's how wisdom is born. I'm not sure there's any other way to birth wisdom. Experience. I have been exploring. Okay, well, let me start here. What is your experience of wholeness? So what does wholeness mean to you, and how do you experience it?
Yeah, so it's that mental shift that I just explained. True wholeness, I think the thing that I tried to do in the past, and I think which most people try to do, is they try to look at everything in their life and project positive emotion onto it, which is a good way to improve that aspect. But in my opinion, if you're doing that, you're always still relying on that thing being like the at the vibration of love in order for me to feel good. Like I have to send positive emotion to my relationship, my business, my job, my whatever it is, my body even, to feel good. But for me, what I've experienced lately is just being able to completely mentally detach from everything, come into the true present, and it's literally just, I can feel like a weight just completely drop off my brain, like changes, and it's just like that feeling of just I just feel whole. It's not like I wouldn't describe it as joy, or it's not like a really high vibrational electric feeling. It's just like a deep sense of just everything's okay. It's like if you imagine like a sine wave, like, and at the top is, if you go above the wave, it's pleasure, and down is pain. Most people want to be up here all the time, but it just feels like just a consistent, it's just feeling of everything's as it should be, and that's for me is wholeness. So it's knowing that I'm connected to an incredible universe, and there's nothing really that can hurt me, and there's nothing I have to achieve, there's nothing I have to do, there's no one I have to be. It's just a feeling of just steady peace, contentment. So but yeah, it's being able to detach from everything and still feel like you, and not defining yourself by what's around you. So it is a mental shift that has to take place, but that's wholeness for me anyway.
That's beautiful. I feel it. What was coming through was like a force field of peace and of lightness and isness, beingness, and really, it's fascinating that you said it's not a very high vibration like electric. I think that peace is more high vibrational than that kind of real zippy electrical. I love going there. I think for me, I really enjoy that force field you're talking about. But what I've discovered in myself recently is that I love having that there, but then I also crave the novelty of experience, and maybe that's just my sensual nature. And one of the ways I've been experiencing wholeness is moving into, it's almost become like a tantric interaction with life, where I've been opening to being with and merging with people and things and experiences and emotions and thoughts and really whatever it is fully, and just becoming unified with the experience. And so it feels kind of like a different movement for me. Months ago, I was in that kind of space of peace, and it actually it carried on for months, and it was beautiful. And I felt like I was living in a very non-dual. I was having a non-dual experience, and I wasn't quite sure what mattered to me anymore. I was empty, but in a good way, like in a way of peace. And I just, I'm here, I'm existing, I'm experiencing whatever is occurring in this moment. And And I felt like I arrived at a point in my own journey where I wanted to want again. Because I didn't want anything for such a period of time. And I was like, I want to desire, I want to feel again deeply. So I started to kind of activate those experiences for myself. And it just, it started without much passion, because there wasn't really any passion there for me, because I didn't, I was just kind of okay with how it was. But I thought to myself, for me, I want to feel alive. I want to experience all the different dimensions of myself. I want to experience those dimensions of myself with other people. I want to let all of that be okay, and be able to really go into those parts of myself fully. And so that has become my new experience of wholeness, has been fully, authentically moving into all the different parts of myself, from moment to moment to moment, in whichever way, and not thinking I need to be a certain way, or not trying to be a certain way, but just really merging with what I am in that moment. And that has felt vulnerable for me. Very vulnerable to go there.
Yeah, that's cool. I totally get what you're saying, because I've experienced that. I mean, I suppose it was triggered by by that last relationship that caused so much emotional turbulence in me, and I've healed to a point where I found this state of such wholeness, and I was just like, I don't need anything. And I was like, as the way I feel now, like I literally felt like I would never need a relationship again for the rest of my life. I was like, but there must be something more to it than that. And as I've really conditioned in that wholeness, I've realized now that I can stack, I think anyway, I can stack, like, if that's that wholeness, that straight line, that I can stack experiences on top of it, and I can experience all those different emotions, all those kind of crazy experiences, whatever it is, but it's built on top of that solid foundation. Whereas what most people are doing is they're down here and they're trying to use things to bring them up to here, but once you get to here, you can put anything you want on top of that, and maybe you'll dip down every now and then. That's completely normal, but it's having that general like baseline. And once you can do that, it's like, yeah, I can go out and just experience the richness of life. I don't have to sit on the mountain and be in peace. I can go and experience some crazy electric emotions, but knowing that I'm coming from that stability and that wholeness. And I will, even if things get crazy at times, which they will, because we're having a human experience, I know that place is conditioned within me to go back to whenever I need to. So yeah.
That's really exquisite. I love how you said that, because that's kind of what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling, is kind of like, well, it feels like integrity to me. Like because to me, integrity is energetic. And I'm going to try it. Like, it feels like there's almost like this core of integrity that is there. And then, because to me, I see things circularly. I don't really see them so much linear. Then there's like this whole realm of experience that evolves around that stable core of integrity that's always there, that supports the experience of all the other dimensions of ourself. And we tapped on this briefly in our last conversation too, about happiness potentially not being the purpose of life. And I think that one of the ways that we short circuit the richness of experience that is available to us is by trying to find feel good by polarizing to feel good states. And I have certainly done this in my journey at different points in time. And I realized that it was because I was already experiencing so much intensity of emotion that I had to find a way to escape whatever the next layer of that was, because whatever I was going through was already so intense. And so I supplemented that intensity with, in the spaces in between, trying to polarize to the feel good places. And then that wasn't really working for me. And so what I discovered then after that was, if I allowed whatever I was experiencing to be beautiful, to feel beautiful, then to me, that's what feel good became. It didn't become like the societal definition of feel good. My grief became so feel good to me because there was such a richness of sensation, of wisdom that came through the felt perception of those emotions. So much beauty was birthed. So much virtue was birthed in those spaces and continues to grow and expand within me. And always there's going to be more points of self-realization and awareness that I'm, invited into. But even as far as creation goes, I think that, because we were starting to talk about quantum experience. So the way that all of this plays into creation is, for me, I have found that the more I allow whatever I'm experiencing to be good to me, to be beautiful to me, and I don't resist it, but I move into it fully and completely to the best of my capacity in the moment, the more not only internal richness I feel and experience, but the more external richness I experience as well. And so to me, even the whole paradigm of what feel good is completely changed. I think that the ways that we teach one another to polarize to these states short circuits our integration. It can short circuit our integration. And I think that still have its function, because through the process of that we learn, maybe to try something new. But in a lot of ways, to me, and maybe this is just because it's been my experience, it feels like a mass escape tactic instead of a process of enrichment, which I feel for me has unfolded through just having the capacity to unconditionally, which to me looks like just not having a story about what I'm experiencing. So it's kind of that masculine detachment, like it is what it is. Mm-hmm. There's not a story about it, just as this is what I'm experiencing. And I don't think creation is judging me. If anyone's judging me, it's myself. And allowing myself to go there unconditionally and just, strip back all the programming around what those experiences mean and either give them new meaning or just allow myself to experience them. And my non-resistance to those parts of myself, that flowering of wealth within myself, has created all of the outside things that I've wanted to experience anyways. And I've gotten to a point in my own journey where striving doesn't work, trying doesn't work, it just doesn't work for me energetically, because my being has something deeper to, it's calling me to something deeper. So even if I tried to try in the same ways that I maybe would have at a previous point in my life, it just wouldn't produce growth in any way, internally or externally. And also being with those parts of myself has enabled me to hold a container for other people, like a huge container for other people to be in all of those aspects, So what my edge, and it's kind of flip-flopped. I've learned how to be with those parts of myself. My edge is in allowing other people to see those parts of myself, because in different parts of my experience, I was lining, like I felt like all the parts of me were okay. I valued all the parts of me, but I was still lining up people. I still needed the validation to match my self-validation. So I had to release that pattern. I felt that those things were okay, but I was lining up with people who didn't think that their full range of expression was okay. And I didn't know what to give them. I didn't know what to do for them, or to even do within the container to help facilitate deeper connection. I just, but I think I've been learning that more deeply by allowing myself to be seen in relationship. It's been hugely supportive of that, of now knowing, okay, what do I, and when is it appropriate to disconnect and allow someone to have their own experience too? So like making those discernments as well, not hanging on to the point of, needing to hang on for any reason whatsoever, wherever that's coming from in me, but just allowing that to be, and me being, feeling whole still throughout all of that, all of that, disconnecting when it's appropriate to disconnect, merging when it's appropriate to merge, opening and allowing myself to be seen when it's appropriate for me to do so. And still maintaining that feeling of wholeness. So relationship for me has become like a huge, huge catalyst in my experience. I think that's just part of my nature, how I'm learning about myself, how I evolve truly is through passion and relationship. So I think I need those two elements to really facilitate more of my own growth.
That's awesome. But it's great that it's awesome that you're aware of that, just because it's going to make your life your progression a whole lot easier. And I think just trying to, if you're just trying to resist everything the universe is sending you, you're just going to make life a lot more difficult than it needs to be. I've never had an issue with embracing my introvertedness and just being alone. And it's rapidly accelerated my progress. But my experience is very different to yours then in that respect. I mean, we're all heading the same way upwards, but it's like two relationships in 10 years and huge periods of introspection and discovery, really, about the universe and life and all that stuff. And it wouldn't happen if I was trying to be someone else or trying to force the issue. So I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now, and I don't know what the future holds in terms of relationships at all, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. But just very excited to be alive at the moment.
It's beautiful. I think the way I'm experiencing a relationship at this point is because I've been celibate for over a year, and I think, well, let me be accurate about this. 1, 2, 3. I've had 3 serious relationships as well in the last, well, not as well, you've had 2 in the last 10 years. And they were all huge catalysts for my growth. And so the way I'm experiencing relationship now is just as my relation to people, because because of the trauma, the abuse and the trauma I experienced growing up, and therefore some of the relationships I created out of that patterning, I had a fear of people, and I needed to go into a deeply introspective internal place for quite a long time. And it's funny because to me, I feel like I'm opening to relationship, and my friends still say, yeah, you're about 80% introvert, 20%. Like all you do is like go in. And so to me, it feels open, but I had to really, I had to really nurture myself, because I realized how much I was afraid of people. Like, afraid of opening to people, afraid of even being in the presence of people sometimes scared me, because like it literally brought up so much like feelings of terror and anxiety. And I think also because as I was meeting all these different parts of myself, I was becoming more psychic, and not just through my vision, but emotionally. And so I was getting the whole blueprint. So I was not only feeling my entire experience, but I was seeing and feeling other people in a way that they were not able to access themselves yet. And so I was understanding their process in more like in with a greater depth than they were able to understand it, simply because they hadn't gone there yet. And so it's been an interesting learning for me, is okay, so like when to speak and when to be still, when to allow and when to offer support, and where can I go with this person, and where, how. And so it's been a learning, and it's such a dance, and so I deeply respect and honor that space of introversion. I don't really even think like truly healthy relationship where whole beings come together is even really possible without fully accessing that space of introversion. And I had people during that time in my life, and I suppose now still, because truly my experience is very introverted, but it feels fresh for me to really be opening to relationships, and my 20% feels like a big deal. Still sometimes like people express their concern, like, and I'm like, I'm good, like really. Whatever it is that my engagement with life is as a whole feels so aligned for me, and so I honor and respect wherever you're at and wherever anybody else is, because I think only we can gauge what we need, when we need it, when we're guided to move in different directions, and what that's going to look like. And I don't think we ever really know until the moment that it arrives.
It's it's an unknown experience, isn't it?
Yeah. I read something yesterday that said uncertainty is fertile.
Yeah.
It's really fertile.
Yeah, that's where by definition, that's where the most growth occurs, because if you keep doing what you've always done and experiencing what you've always experienced, it's never anything new, is it? So having that courage to step into the unknown, however scary it may be, is that's where the new lives, and you have to be able to go there. Like I'd do it, however scary, I do it time and time again, and every time, even if it takes months and months to fully become clear to me why it happened, it always just is incredible in the end. Even if it's something like quitting a job or signing up for some insanely expensive course, or whatever it is, something that people would consider crazy. That's what's provided the both, or getting into a relationship everyone says that you shouldn't do. That they're what provide all the biggest learning experiences, because that's
Yes.
the unknown.
Uh-huh. Oh man. I value that about you. I appreciate that you're willing to do that and go there,
Mm-hmm.
and experience that full spectrum. Yeah, I think some of my I feel that too. Some of my relationships seem probably highly unlikely to so many people. Like I have found the deepest depths of love in the most taboo places.
Me too.
Uh,
I won't say it on here, but my last relationship, you wouldn't believe the circumstances. I did it anyway, and it was even though it wasn't successful, it was probably one of the greatest learning experiences of my entire life. And if I had been like, "Oh, this is a ridiculous idea," then I wouldn't have had that experience. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you believe life to be about, which is why these new awarenesses that I'm having are so powerful, because I think it's about experience. And if you understand that there's something much mind-blowingly bigger than you can ever imagine going on outside of you, and there's a place that you're going that you can't even conceive at the moment, it's like, well, why would I worry about taking risks in this human life, you know? If you see I mean, maybe this is just me, but if you see everything as an experience, then it just becomes a lot easier to engage with everything, because it's not there to it's not life or death. It's not there to validate or define you. It's just experience, and all experience creates wisdom. So yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm thinking if there's anywhere else to explore, because I brought my notebook because I was having some powerful insights coming through. Because I love that you mentioned belief. Because I mean, I really think that that's like the creative engine of the universe itself. And I think that that's so unique to all of us. And I think that's part of the gift of this reality we live in, is that we actually get to completely formulate our own beliefs and create from that space. And so something I've been exploring is the individual beliefs and collective agreements. And so depending on how big our belief is and how, I suppose, big our embodiment is as an individual creator, how much can we use our passion and our will to shift the larger agreements? Like what is making the planets move through the solar system in the way that they are? What is creating the solar flares that come into our atmosphere? What is it? And to me, it feels like consciousness. I mean, I don't know if it can be anything else. So what consciousness is doing the creating? And that has felt fun to play with, right? So using the power of belief to see how far that spans.
Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about this now, because one of the things that has come up for me now, I feel like I'm coming to the end of a cycle. Like I built up that picture of the universe over the last 4 years, and I feel like now I'm getting the instruction to turn beliefs into knowns, which is a completely different experience. I mean, it's one thing to say, I believe I'm more than a physical body, but to actually know it is something, a completely different experience entirely. And I think, yeah, because we've completely kind of been cut off from what we are, we don't know what we truly are. Well, humanity as a whole has been cut off. I think the world at the moment is operating on belief rather than knowledge. And I think the next few hundred years especially, I think there's going to be a big shift in people turning their beliefs into knowns, because that's the signal that I'm getting now. It's not enough for me anymore to believe things. I want to know them. I don't need to know everything, but I can say, like, for example, that I know I'm more than a physical body because I had an out-of-body experience. But if I didn't have that, I would just be saying now that I believe that I'm more than a physical body. But to actually have that experience and then know it is a completely new dimension. So for me, I'm fully intent on turning beliefs into knowns, and that's the next step in my life, to know without doubt why this is this way, and that universal intelligence or consciousness you talked about. I'm going to know that and not just believe it. So
that's beautiful. This is good. This is really, really good. I feel like the calibration that's occurring in my experience right now, and has been occurring for the past several, probably a little bit more than the past several months. I would say maybe 6 months. Although right now I feel like I'm also closing out a cycle and stepping into being that fully. And it's an interesting dance for me between belief and knowingness, because knowingness connects me to my it connects me to my sovereignty in the most expanded way possible, as a cosmic embodiment of all that is, of source, of energy, of consciousness. And it puts me in that place. And the energy of belief connects me back to my human. And so I've been dancing between allowing myself to fully go into my knowingness of that, and to play and paint and architect and create from that space of knowingness. And to not allow that, though, to interrupt my experience with other humans, because I find that the more I know, and the more I inhabit my knowing, and the more I live from it, in some ways, it is disconnected me from people who don't know. And so I suppose what I'm trying to find is a way to connect to other people without stepping out of my knowing, but also not diminishing that others don't know yet, and hopefully trying to connect them back to their knowing, so that we can all play from a more expanded awareness. And so let me feel into this for just a second. Knowing to me feels like the supreme point of power and sovereignty and authority in our own experience as creator. Belief to me feels like encouragement to the human elements. Can I continue to believe in myself and reinforce the sense of self-belief in others? Because I think what I have experienced, and as far as it is concerned with trying to connect to more people, because I feel like I can easily connect to you on this, and I feel like I can easily connect to, and this is great because I feel like this is like opening a portal for a whole nother conversation that's probably a lot more expansive and intellectual and embodied through that knowingness and all the things that we can dance with metaphysically there. And then also, so this is what I've been playing with in my business and my messaging is how can I authentically invite people into that place without completely terrifying them? Because to be that fully is completely stripping down all of our codependencies, all of our grasping, our clinging, our needing for something bigger than us to choose for us, decide for us, create for us, supplement us in some way, but to be that fully and to trust that, like, to live as the we, I suppose. To really live as the we, and to trust that on some dimensional level of experience, I am you and you are me, and we are looking at each other through different lenses of experience, experiencing the one self still that we are. And so trust becomes a fully embodied experience of this, like, self-trust becomes self-trust. And not completely obliterating people's systems, because that, like, what it translates to, or what I've experienced it as, is any tendency that I have to place my power outside of myself, even if that's to an image of a source that is somehow more perfected and whole and complete than I am, has had to fall away. And that has been, those are probably some of the deepest depths that I've accessed within myself. And so then cultivating the space of being that and inhabiting that and creating from that place in a way that I feel is responsible, because having that much power to create is, to me, it feels like a responsibility, something that I've had to bring great awareness to. But I also don't think that I would have evolved into the awareness of it if I wasn't capable of handling it responsibly. So it's interesting. There's all these different, and so then how do I invite then others into that space of knowing in the most loving, in a way that they can receive it, I suppose, is what, you know, like in a way that it can be received.
Yeah, it's definitely a dance that has to be played. And there's certain people you'll come across will happen over and over again in your life that you'll be just so want to just wake them up and be like, this is the truth, but you're just not supposed to be their teacher at that time and that place. And there's definitely a challenge to accept that, because I have like a really amazing way of being able to see the exact step that someone needs to take next in their life. And I know it doesn't matter if I say it to them, if they're not ready, they won't take it. And if I get too emotionally attached to that, it would just frustrate me too much. And I'll be like, I know exactly what you need to do, but you can't see it. And it's like, oh. But I've learned to be able to begin to detach myself from that and just understand that it's not always my place to help everyone. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like a bit of a sidestep, but another thing that the way that I look at it is that just by being me, a more elevated version of myself, I'm still raising the collective consciousness anyway. So even if I can't help everyone in the way I want to, as long as I keep elevating myself, I'm energetically creating that environment in which they will be able to perceive greater knowledge anyway. So it's just a win-win, but certainly approaching it in a way that people can receive what you're trying to say is one of the challenges, but it's it's a good one to be able to have, I think, and it's just being gentle and understanding. Really, I think that's the key to it. So yeah.
You are so wise. You are like you're just there in yourself, and I really appreciate that. Oh man, I wish I could be there all the time in that way. I'm certainly not. I'm not. I definitely do a dance within my own self, shifting in and out of those places and spaces, and that space of knowing that the beingness is the transmission, and the space of needing to formulate or configure things, which I don't. But sometimes my mind, it needs something to pour its focus into, so it'll go into those spaces of trying to figure all of that out. And I have to remember to step back. So thank you for being such a lovely reminder. But yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I have been really appreciating my engagements with the masculine energy lately, because as I kind of go around my feminine brain and feelings, and that you all hold this space for me to just explore that. I learn about myself just by exploring it out loud, and then your capacity to just be with it without needing to do anything, or without even, has been a huge support. And then also in some cases, just giving honest feedback about where I am and what they're witnessing. It has really been illuminating for me too. I'm like, I do that, don't I? And it's like been beautiful to have those reflections from a really pure and loving place. And so, I've really been appreciating and respecting more deeply my interactions with the masculine energy. So thank you for
glad I can help. Awesome.
Yeah.
We definitely have things to learn as well, so from the feminine, definitely. So
yeah, I think it's beautiful dance for all of us to just share, I suppose, to just share what our experience is, and just have an experience without needing to have an outcome from it has been really big lately. Letting go of all of the it's interesting. I'll just mention this briefly, because I know we've probably been on here for a while, and I feel the energy is starting to kind of it's been a dance between, when I set intentions, they powerfully and almost instantly are manifesting in my reality to a T, without exception and without like very specifically. So it feels like my creations are very precise. So it feels like that knowingness is there, whether it's unconscious or conscious. I think it's just something that I've acclimated to, as far as setting an intention and having the creation of me manifest. And then there's also this really beautiful space of not having any expectations for an outcome, and allowing the beauty of experience to unfold something that's far beyond what I can intend. And I feel like both of those have their their place in different times. But it's been beautiful to kind of like dance in both of those realms of like being in that place of power and intent and precision to create, and then also not needing to do that, and to just really soak in the magic and the wonder and the richness of experience. So it's been beautiful to kind of explore those different dimensions.
Yeah, that's probably, well, I'm extremely outcome driven. Like, that's just my personality. And I don't think it's coincidence. Otherwise, if I wasn't, then I wouldn't have the drive to find these new awarenesses that I have. So I'm extremely outcome driven. So, but definitely, I think that'll be what you just said, an interesting avenue to explore for me going forward. Just being able to experience things in the moment and just have it be, I don't know what's going to happen, and just that open-ended experience. And but yeah, me personally, I'm very, well, yeah, I'd take things from the spiritual, but I turn it into something practical. So that's just who I am, and I love it. It just lights me up, and I'm extremely sort of practical in that way. So yeah, maybe something to explore in the future anyway.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I love that. I love, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of where the electricity comes from too sometimes, right? Is like having that foresight to manifest something tangibly, and feeling the electricity of that. I feel, okay, this is funny because I have a whole sheet from last night of like just intentions. I was like, this is, because I went into an experience. This is beautiful. So before I went into the experience, I set very clear, powerful intentions for what I wanted to learn through the experience. But I suppose I had no attachment to the outcome of how those awarenesses came about. But through the dance of the experience itself, every single intention came to pass so beautifully and so naturally. And so maybe it's a coexistence of those two things. I like having the intention, but not attaching to the way in which it unfolds itself, I suppose.
I think personally, I believe that the ultimate state will be a complete balance of masculine and feminine, and complete balance of the left and right brain. I think that's, I mean, I think everyone's going to have their own unique quirks, and I don't think everyone's, even at a spiritual level, everyone's the same. I think we all have our unique emphasis, but I think just where I see us going personally, I think it's because masculine and feminine come together to make a whole, essentially, and I think we're heading to wholeness. So I think they're kind of just two parts of the same system, essentially. So I think one day we'll be able to balance them perfectly and just tap in and out of them as we wish, really.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I certainly feel that process deepening within my own self, that calibration is happening. Certainly. And it feels really good. Like, I love being, I really have been enjoying being in the beauty of it, in the mess of it, in the rawness of it, and in the really sharp intellectual places, and then the really deep, watery feeling places, and I suppose gliding through that, and letting those energies kind of coalesce together to become a natural state, because that's the way I feel it. I feel within myself that what's happening is, as those energies do integrate fully, just a whole new way of being is going to emerge, and it's just going to be such a natural thing that happens that I don't have to think about, or it's just going to become a new expression of me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't have to think about it. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's where I can get challenged, is when so thank you for reminding me that it's good to be and just be and express. Because when
Yeah.
I get into those places of thinking about it, uh, it feels like resistance. It feels like pressure.
Mm.
Um, that doesn't need to be there, and that actually stunts the process. If I just were to open, it would just come together so much more naturally and quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me today. I would love to, I don't know, maybe over the next few weeks or so, yeah, feel into maybe another conversation. And I've been feeling really like I kind of want to go. Today was, well, actually, the past couple of weeks have been more human for me, because I tend to be so focused in the metaphysical that I really needed to come back into my human, like in a really deep way for a while, to just gain new awareness from that experience. But I really would love to go play in the metaphysical with you. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
To really open up to that big expanded vision and play out there a little bit. So
Yeah.
you're open.
Yeah. Sounds awesome.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, if anything comes up for you that you feel called to share, please reach out. In the meantime, and thank you for sharing what is coming through you, because I think that we were having similar experiences, but in a completely different way. Like
Yeah.
recognizing the essence of creative substance, the emotion, feeling. But I was learning it through like the vulnerability of being human, and you were learning it through like this profound vision. And so I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for setting up this talk. I really appreciate it. I know it's been great. So
Yeah. Well, enjoy what is today, Sunday, the rest of your Sunday. And yeah, we'll connect again soon. I'm gonna